So this episode definitely gives RAPHTALIA some big ball energy there. The Katana Hero, which, I mean, Crunchyroll gave it away, I'm not gonna lie, with the thumbnail being her, as well as the fact that the title of the episode is Katana Hero. So, given that, I was expecting all throughout this episode for her to get a vassal weapon of some sort. Though, I'm not gonna lie, when initially blue-haired bastard comes in to grab the sword, I was like, oh wait, are they actually baiting us around with an obvious kind of reveal? But I like the way they went about it. The issue with an episode like this is it comes down to, because we spent so many episodes in the first part of this season with the Tortoise arc, there's not as many episodes able to be delivered to what seems to be a vast majority of people's favorite part of this season. Because I've been saying for a while, and I know there's some disagreements with this opinion, but I much would have preferred the Tortoise arc being a movie. I don't care how long, how short, just get it out of the way, because as okay as I was with the previous arc, I really think this arc is a much similar quality to that of Season 1. The big difference is that, unlike in Season 1, where I felt like there was enough episodes to get to each objective, here, it doesn't feel like we have as many episodes. And from where I'm sitting, it feels like the reason this arc is kind of getting the short end of the stick in terms of episode length is because there's not enough episodes for the first part here, and because it's a split core, ultimately sacrifices were made. I'm hoping that we won't have a similar repeat when it comes to next core when we do end up getting that. I don't see why we would need to do what we did here unless there's like another Tortoise arc thing, but it's one of those things where you look at the reunion, right? I think the separation and the anxiety of not knowing where she went is amazing. And it's not to say now Fumi doesn't have a reason not to be relieved or not to be worried. I mean, he literally was separated right before his eyes of this monstrosity happening. Who knows where she's going? And we end last week with the slave crest disappearing. Of course, now we know the reason the slave crest disappeared is because she became the Katana Hero. But, you know, the fear of that and him being relieved to see her, even if it's only been a couple of days, it still works. The issue is that I much would have preferred seeing her separated from the group for another, 3 or 4 episodes minimum. Because that anxiety and that rage would have worked a lot better. Here's the thing. It's not to say he's not gonna he's still gonna want to kill the bastard responsible, but the idea of that longer separation would have been a lot better. So it's one of those things where I like everything about the episode, it just feels very rushed. It feels very condensed because there is a limited runtime for this part of the season. Does it ruin the show for me? No. Will it ruin the show for some? Probably. And will there be source readers probably upset by the change? And by source readers, I'm talking about the light novel, because I know there is a lot of manga fans of Shield Hero who think that the anime is adapting the manga. It's not, it's adapting the light novel, but I digress. So it's kind of like a mixed bag where I like all the ideas, I just wish we had more time to see the separation. Not to say like the way she got out of the prison cell and stuff I didn't like, because I actually found that amusing because the idea of illusion magic, the guard was just an idiot, but I'm kind of okay with guards being idiots. A little trope that I kind of find amusing and cute in anime. And I thought it was kind of hilarious to see not once but twice. Just either Nafumi's party is the absolute best at escaping jail cells, or the guards that get assigned, or just the people responsible for building the traps are just absolute ass at their job. I have no idea. Might be a bit of both. But overall though, the ideas, like I said, I did enjoy. I like seeing Luck. I think that group in general is very amusing, so seeing just RAPHTALIA, small RAPHTALIA that is, interacting and just the lengths they were going because ultimately they need her help sort of thing. She needs their help, they need their help. Like, right now, it's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of a thing. And to see how quickly she was progressing, like, that's another thing that I like seeing the general training. I like seeing in the early stages of this arc, when they're back to essentially level 1, him having to get new shield abilities, or, trying to level up against these little creatures that he normally could flick away and defeat. So for me, I would have loved an entire episode of just seeing her train with this group. Instead, we got 1 or 2 scenes, right? So it's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword. I understand that because of shorter lengths, you have to find a way to navigate to get to all the main things so you can end the season, right? But honestly, with the way the pacing went this episode, I honestly would have been more okay with a big cliffhanger because we already know we're getting another season, right? It's essentially 2 cores just split up into 2 separate seasons is what they're labeling it. So it's one of those things where in a perfect world, there's ways I could see to do it differently, and I think there is probably going to be a much more pushback for an episode like this than we have seen in recent episodes, given that the changes and just the way the anime's been handling it. I think the community as a whole have been a much more positive towards it. An episode like this, I'm suspecting, will have a lot more negativity, and I can understand why. I mean, the animation wasn't the best. It was pretty choppy, all things considered. The art design wasn't the best we've seen. And honestly, the pacing was faster than it needed to be. Because if you rewind to the previous arc, you would have heard the opposite. We wish the pacing was faster. A lot of us were saying that because we just wanted it to see it come to an end rather than reviving the turtle 15 times. Here, we wish the pacing was slower so we could have more time in that classic Shield Hero formula while being able to really get into the mindset of both RAPHTALIA and now Fumi. And if sure, we got to see both sides, but it feels like we could have had episodes worth of content in between. So it's a double-edged sword, right? You know, you have to do it one way, but at the same time, you wish in a different world we could have more episodes, but it is what it is. But I will say, despite me not thinking the production was the highest quality that we've seen this season, I also think the overall fight with RAPHTALIA when it came to the katana was really well done, because the idea of like that elegant swordplay, that very swift movement, before you can even realize what's happened, you've already been slashed, and some of her new moves were pretty brutal. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, if this man would have moved, he would have been cut apart and just, it would have been a death by 1,000 cuts, and like, what she did to those, like, tigers, like, it was pretty impressive what she's able to do, even if it did completely drain her. So it's one of those things where I'm kind of interested to see what the relationship between now Fumi and the party will be now that they have another really powerful ally. And she was already pretty useful when she was at her full levels before, so give her a vassal weapon, it's pretty interesting. I do like the idea of almost like a sword and a stone sort of a thing. I thought what was going to happen given that moment was that everyone was going to try and fail, and they'd say, okay, we know someone's picked, so we have to just try everyone in the crowd, and then she would go up. Instead, I love the idea of just putting pie on his face, where he's going to pick it up, and it just transports to the little girl in the audience, rubbing salt in the wounds to the absolute maximum. So, like, for me, this arc in general of Shield Hero, I really enjoy. I think it's more in line with Season 1's quality. The issue comes down to there's not enough episodes for this amazing arc, so therefore it doesn't feel as refined as Season 1. But I still have fun. I still love Shield Hero. I still think it's a great universe. I think it's a great cast of characters. I think the reunion was still emotional. And I think, in general, this was a big growing point for her. Rather than being held down by the slave crash, she came back completely to him on her own accord, sort of a thing. So there is a lot to enjoy. It's just that voice in the back of my head saying, if only it could have been different. If only this could have been a 15-episode season, right? Even if it wasn't, you know, vastly and drastically different. Just a few more episodes to keep them separated. And then therefore it all could have been blended a bit better with that pacing. But sometimes anime adaptations, they do what they think is best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And hey, it could have been a lot worse. I've seen a lot worse adaptations try similar things and fall flat on its face. So for me, as long as I'm still enjoying Shield Hero, I'm happy. I just hope for the sake of the future of this show, the next core doesn't have as many pacing issues, because I can live with production issues. Pacing issues is when it starts to wear down your enjoyment. This is really the first time in this new arc that's really bothered me, so I guess we'll see where it goes. Still loving it. Don't want people to say, oh yeah, Brennan's one of us, he hates Shield Hero now. I get so many people who act like that if I give any criticism. Still really enjoy it, but I do have my issues for sure. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. Let me know your feelings down below, whether if you're a fan of that source or if you're anime original. What are you feeling? What do you hope to see with the last few episodes? Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.